Hi y'all, welcome to the Craft Table Podcast. My name is Tori. If you'd like to DM me or see what I'm working on, you can find me at the Craft Table Podcast at the Making app and Instagram. If you'd like to shoot me an email, you can send an email to the Craft Table Podcast at gmail.com. This week I do have a little bit of progress and my monthly Nest Fiber club to share with you. I actually remembered to keep my monthly club out so that I could share that with y'all, and it's my favorite breed, so that's even more fun. I'll start off with my spinning. So I know I showed you the one skein last week, but I did finish my 2 skeins of the BFL Silk blend from Nest Fiber. And this is the first skein, this is the second skein. It's a little bit smaller, but I noticed that I was not as consistent with the multicolored braid as I was with the pink, the light pink. And that comes down to the fact that I was able to strip down and break down the pink into teeny tiny slivers and really make it as slim as possible. I could not do that with the colored braid because then I would be messing up the dyed pattern of these colors, and I did not want to do that. So I spun directly from the braid top to bottom, but I did try and pull it apart and get some air into it and spin as thin as possible. It was just still too lumpy, especially towards the beginning of my bobbin, because I was getting into the groove of things. Whereas this first bobbin or first skein came from the back end of all of my consistency work, so it was the most even, whereas this was the beginning of my bobbin and was not as consistent. So that's why it ended up being a little bit smaller, and that resulted in having extra pink. So I have a mini skein of a fingering weight, a pretty solid fingering weight of this pink. I don't know what I'm gonna do with it. Maybe I'll keep it for socks. But it is a little thing, about 0.1 ounces, because these two together are 7.9 ounces. So I got a majority of my 8 ounces into these two guys. So I'm hoping that is enough for the inclination cowl, because I'm not going to do the shawl. I'm going to do a cowl for winter and just have something that's easier instead of like trying to finagle a shawl and a coat. I'll just throw this on, and I think this will be enough. I'm hoping it'll be enough. I did not check the schematics of the pattern. I know, that's awful. I probably should have, and I might after that. No, I'm not. I'll do it when I'm ready to knit this up. Whatever. Don't care. This was fun to do anyways. It was really nice to see what a combo spin would look like. I think it'll knit up really nicely. I do not like barber pulling, really, but I think because of the consistency of this pink color, it's more pleasing to the eye for me. It's not as like jarring as barber pulling can happen when you have a multicolored braid that you're applying together and it's just a little bit all over the place. This is a little bit more consistent, I think, and why I probably like it more. Yeah, so I'm really happy with it. It's really great yarn, not really springy. It's pretty drapey. Yeah, I'm kind of tugging on it as I'm talking to you, and there's not a lot of bounce. This has a little bit of bounce, so you can kind of see it has a little bit of elasticity, but not really a whole lot. It's still pretty curly on itself, but I'm not bothered by that. I think it'll still make a really great cowl, and it's not super wash, so it won't stretch too much when I do wash it. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I really want to talk about. I will say it was just a really nice thing to do on the wheel. And my bobbins are now free to do whatever I want next time. I don't know what I'm going to move on to next. I think I do, but I don't know how I'm going to prep it. So that's about it. That's all I got. Hopefully this will be enough for the inclination cowl. I have a feeling it will. And you know that cowl takes multiple skeins because of color shifting, color changing, but I'm just going to stick with a single color and watch that stripe with the color changes in one of my plies. Here's to hoping that it's enough. I think it's the right weight. If it's not, I'm gonna make it work. I just really like this yarn and I want to be able to use it. This is the first time that I've had a usable quantity for something bigger than socks or color work section that is colored. I can't say that for like my fleeces. I have plenty of yarn for my fleeces, but my singular braids that I bought, this is the most I've gotten out of that, purely because I use 2 braids and not a single braid. I did get a sweater's quantity of a single color for my Nordiska, but that was because I bought 2 braids of the Targhee for the main color and I did not ply it. It's a single ply, so it went a little bit further than if I were to apply a 2 ply. So I don't like single ply though. I don't know how it'll wear. I'm a little worried about that because I haven't worn it yet. So I'm hoping when I actually start wearing it, it won't be a big deal, because I have a sweater that's made out of hand-dyed yarn that I wear endlessly and it pills pretty aggressively. I need to invest in an electric sweater shaver and just clean up my sweaters. They'll look a lot nicer instead of just like slowly plucking a fuzz bit here and there, a pill here and there. That's a tangent. So anyways, this is the most I've gotten out of some yarn, or out of some fiber that isn't a fleece, and I'm pretty happy with it. I think it was a great process. I highly recommend it for anyone who hasn't done a combo spin. For color, this was the same breed, so that's not too different. It's just the color, and it's the same dyer, so it wasn't like I was trying to mix 2 different. There's consistency across a single dyer. When you start adding different dyers is when it can get kind of like iffy, because dyers tend to stick to like a color range usually, and that color range stays the same across their dyeing. So like if for this instance, this pale pink resided in this multicolored braid, and so I could easily just match those very well. It doesn't mean that you can't use different dyed fibers from different dyers. It just is you're going to get a different effect. And I really wanted to use the same dyer so that I could get a cohesive look. Granted, this is barber pulled in 2 different colors, but it would be more cohesive than me trying to find a pink that slightly matched what was happening in the multicolored braid. Again, super happy with it. I think it was a lot of fun. Don't really have anything else to share about it. I do like BFL, so this was fun to do. And the silk was fun too, so it's nice and soft. I should say that it's pretty soft for a non-superwash because of that silk content. And it's drapier than 100% wool because of that silk content. So I'm definitely looking forward to what the cowl will look like when I start knitting it up. Probably won't be anytime soon. It might be my fall knit. I can't believe I'm so excited that we're getting closer to fall because I can't take this heat. But it's kind of weird to think that we're almost there, because the beginning of the summer was a shit show. So to be at the end of it is really nice. My goal was to have everything calm down in my life by fall. I think we'll get there. I think we'll be okay. I think we'll make it. So yeah, that's just the plans. I will definitely be using these skeins in my next project or so. And I still don't know what I'm going to do with this guy. I might do socks, with this being the toe and heels, if I have enough after making something out of these guys. Doubtful, but we'll see. I know that you can get, depending on your size, you can get like a short sleeve crop out of 2 skeins. I don't know what a cowl will look like. I don't even know if it's the right weight. I did not care. I just went with it. It had a plan, but it also, like, the way I spun it was planned out, but the connection to the project was not. So I just knew what I wanted. It is what it is. I don't care. It's not like I'm trying to fit a sweater. It'd be a little different if I were trying to spin for a sweater, which I have done multiple times now. That's odd to say. I've done it 3 separate times, and that's a different process than what this was. This was just like fly by the seat of my pants, have fun, experiment. And that was really nice. I know a lot of people say that experimenting with their spinning with precious braids, because you only get that one. It's hard, it's expensive, and it also is really hard to get more than one braid of a color. It's a little different than with like skeins of yarn, and I know that Andrea Mary talked about that in one of her recent podcast episodes, where it's like, it's hard to use your fiber because you only have so much of it, whereas if you have yarn and you run out of it or you need more for a project, you just order it. Typically, you could just order it if you, not always, but you are more readily available to order more yarn if you need it, if you ran out. That is not the case for hand-dyed fiber. A lot of people I purchase from are small batch dyers. So like Spindelicious, she does certain colorways at a certain time, only 1 or 2 braids of that. So it's really hard to try and get a sweater quantity, especially if you are a larger size like me, from hand-dyed fiber, or hand dyers. I think that's the right way to say it. So that's just the reality. That's what happens. So yeah, I spun for a cowl. Whether that is the right weight or not, who knows? But I definitely know that I will have enough for a cowl if the inclination cowl doesn't work out. But I am going to make it work, because our inclination stuff, the cardigan and the hat are fingering weight. So I'm assuming the cowl is also fingering weight. And I do want to do the hat. Maybe it's a striated cardigan. Maybe that's what it's called. Oh, there's a kitty cat. It might be the striated cardigan and the striated hat. But it's fisherman rib. So I just need to actually look at it and stop guessing. It would be so easy to just pull a Ravelry, but I'm clearly preferring to make my life harder. But yeah, that's what I did. Pretty great. Pretty happy that I didn't have a lot of like extra lying around and couldn't do too much. I feel like I got as much as I could out of it with the way that I spun it. Very happy. No complaints here. Great spin, great fiber. So that's what I have. I did do a little knitting. I had the urge to knit this week, especially after listening to some podcasts this weekend. So a lot of my knitting happened this weekend. I am at the bottom of the body. I have an inch to go left from the armhole, and then I can start on the ribbing for the bottom and then pick up for the sleeves. So I'm doing pretty good. You guys have seen this quite a bit. It's the Magic Beetle sweater, toddler size A, nothing crazy. I'm making my way. Not gonna spend too much time on this one. I've already talked about it quite a bit in other episodes. So if you want to know more about it and the yarn that I used, feel free to look at older episodes. But yeah, I just figured I'd let you guys know that I've made a dent in the body, I feel like, since the last time I talked to you. And it's been nice. So hopefully next time I speak to you, I'm on the ribbing. I think that's possible. I think that's not too much to ask. We'll see. I haven't been a long week already. I'm training someone at work, so lots of fielding of questions and things, and by the end of the day I'm kind of like brain dead. So we'll see if I have the feeling to knit, but I've been knitting a little bit so far. Definitely a lot more knitting over the weekend. I don't know, we'll see. The goal is to get this done before fall. I think it's doable. The next thing and the last thing I'm going to share is acquisitions, but it's just my monthly nest fiber club. A few people do, sorry if it's crinkling, a few people do fiber clubs. I know Hello Yarn does one, Nest Fibers does one. I don't know if Hip Strings does, because they're also a fiber dyer and a yarn dyer. I don't know too many fiber dyers, and it's also hard to find fiber dyers. Some people who do yarn dyeing I've noticed are like starting to consider fiber dyeing. One of those people being Republica Unicornia. I think that's how it's said. I think she's based in Georgia. I love her yarn. It's beautiful, so beautiful. I bought a sweater quantity from her and a single skein for socks, and I'm put a pause on the sweater I was working on, but did not start the socks, and her stuff is delightful. Her colors are, and she's debating on doing fiber. And then there's I can visualize it, but I can't think of the name. I've seen a few people just mention like that they're thinking about it, and I know that Plies and Hellhounds mentioned it briefly a while ago, but I haven't seen any like move to do that. But yeah, there's not a very large market, I don't think, for hand-dyed fiber that is readily available on the internet. I think like at shows and stuff you can find things a little bit more easily, but overall I think the biggest names are Loop and Into the World. They are the most common that I've heard people say anything about. And then of course Hello Yarn and Nest Fibers. But I do Nest Fibers fiber club just because, and I do the one that specifically does, she's got 3 different tiers: luxury, merino, and then variety. And I do the variety, so every month it's a different blend, and this month is 100% Targhee, and it is called Pinata. It's the July 2022 color, and there's a little bit of a difference just from the cramming of the bag, but you can see more of those pinks and browns up top, and then when I flip it over you got more of those browns or brownish greens, blues on this side. I am looking forward to it. I think this will be my next spin. I'm not sure how I want to spin this up. I know if I break it down a lot it's going to muddy the colors, but I'm kind of tempted to do that and just see how it goes. I could also fractal spin this, so I keep one strand of the ply from top to bottom, keep it in one color repeat, and then take the other half or the other 2/3 and break it down so that the repeats are shorter. And so kind of like that combo spin that I did, you have the one ply that is consistent all the way through, and then you have either 1 or 2 plies where it is broken up more and less consistent and a lot more messy. I haven't done that. I'm trying to think. I think I might have tried that with the colors, the braid in my Magic Beetle sweater, but I'm not entirely sure. I do not remember, but I know for a fact that I haven't like committed heavily to that idea, so I'm not sure if I want to do that with this. It's just really fun colors. It's very bright and a little bit all over the place, as you can see, so I don't know if muddying it would do it any favors. I'm not too stressed about it. I just like the fiber content. Targhee is very squishy and spongy, and you really have to work at getting it, being able to spin it pretty thin. I break it up and pre-attenuate pretty aggressively, pre-draft pretty aggressively for Targhee to get as thin of a spin as possible. I'm not very good at getting a thin spin from a large width of fiber, and just is not my jam. It's also not how I spin. So I'm kind of debating on how I want to do this, and I think I might just break it down and see how it goes and just not care, and split it down the middle lengthwise so that I have hopefully an even 2-ply, because I'll definitely do a 2-ply. I do like a 3-ply, but the way that I spin on default, a 2-ply will give me a fingering weight, and I typically knit fingering weight things. Very rarely will I do a DK. I have knit things in worsted weight, but I know that I don't like to wear them as much as I do my fingering weight stuff. So I go for fingering weight, and I know that I'll have more use out of it even if I don't use it right away. So that's the plan for this guy. I don't know when I'll start spinning, but it is next. I don't have anything on my wheel right now. I don't know. The last spin, the spin I just finished was really, really nice. But I'm not having any like immediate urge to jump right back onto the wheel. So I don't know, we'll see. But this is definitely my next spin, and it is really fun. I have a couple other, I have May and June that I got from Nest Fiber, and they kind of fall in the same vein of these pinks and golds, mustards, but this is the one that has the most blue and is the most vibrant, and it also is my favorite blend. The last one was Rambouillet. Rambouillet can be considered similar to Targhee, but I adore Targhee. I just do. It is an American breed. It is a large sheep. It is one of my favorites, and I love to knit with it. It's very plush and very fun. So this has to be the next one. Yeah, that's the Nest Fiber Club Pinata, July 2022 colorway. I don't have anything else to share crafting wise. No sewing and no crocheting. I really have been sticking to knitting or spinning. Maggie's doing good. She has an appointment in a couple weeks to check if the bone is healing or not. In the meantime, she is doing a lot more walking. She is going a little bit further in the yard finally. I can tell that she's bored, so I have one of her toys in there with her at all times, because now she's kind of a little bit more stable and I'm not worried about her as much as I did the first couple of weeks. So she's got a toy in there, but she doesn't really play with it. I just heard her a second ago because it's a toy, a soft toy that has like crinkly material in the middle, and she really likes those. And I heard her a second ago. You might have heard her too, but she's put it down now. So it's she's just bored, but she's, I think, healing. But I'll know more when that appointment happens in a couple of weeks. Oh, by the way, I should probably talk about this just in case someone asks. This is my Into the Woods shawl made out of handspun. The first color, you can kind of see it up top, is a color from a totally different dyer, and then the last few, so from here down, is from the same dyer, which is probably why it blends a little bit better. It's huge. It's huge. It is a 3/4 shawl with wedges. I It's made out of targhee, 100% targhee. I don't think there's any silk content in that. I'm trying to remember. I don't think there is. I spun that on my spindle before I bought my wheel, so I spun all 4 braids on a spindle. I'm insane, but I did it. I really enjoyed it. The process was great. The knitting was great. I finished it last year. Maybe this year, end of this year? No, I finished it last year because I was able to wear it over the winter. So last year, really loved it. It's hanging up that way because that is the only surface out of the way that I can hang that while it dries. How I wash it is I throw it into some wash for 15 minutes. I then squeeze out as much of the water as I can, take it down to my washer, and then do a spin cycle, and that gets rid of any excess water, and it leaves it damp to, like, not too damp, but like it still needs to be air dried a little bit. And I do that with all of my knits regardless of what they are. I'm not too precious about it. And my socks will go into the dryer even because that's super wash. That is not super wash, so I do not put it in the dryer because it will felt and shrink. And I like how big it is, and I wear it at my desk all the time. It is one of my favorites, but I needed to wash it, and I just hadn't yet. So I washed it, and it will, once it's done drying, it will go into my little drawer of hand knits where everything goes. But I'm running out of space in that drawer, thankfully. So, and it's a tiny drawer. It's really tiny. I don't really have a lot of hand knits. I really only started a couple years ago, and at first I was a little nervous to make myself anything that actually took into consideration my measurements. And since then my measurements have changed drastically, so some of the things I originally knit no longer fit me. And a lot of the more recent knits I don't have a lot of. I have 3 knits that fit that are sweaters, but I have a few pairs of socks, and then I have shawls, of course. Actually, I have 4 sweaters, and one of them is pushing it, and it also is like a little rough and needs some repairing, but it's lace weight mohair, so that's a bit of a bitch to weave in ends and fix holes. It's been well loved, and that's why I'm making a second one. That is currently a whip in my craft room that I have not touched in months. Yeah, so I don't have very many, and the ones that I do go into that one little shelf or a drawer, and now there's no room, so I need to find a new place for my hand knits, and I'll probably have to do that with this one because it's pretty big. And then yeah, I'll save it for the cooler months because right now it is hot, very hot. Yeah, so that's sitting ready, finishing up drying and ready to go. But I figured I'd just talk about it real quick because it's in the background, and it is hand spun, and it is a knitted object by me. So there you go. I don't think I've talked about it on this podcast yet because I did talk about it on this podcast. Talked about it on the Spotify podcast, I believe. The audio podcast, I believe. Maybe not. I could have sworn I talked about it on the podcast, but maybe not. And if you don't know, I do have an audio, or did have an audio version of this before I went to video, and that is on Spotify under the same name, if you are ever so inclined to look it up. I talked a lot more about spinning instead of like showing things because it was audio. So if you're curious, it exists. Other than that, I don't have anything to share, nothing crazy, and I haven't purchased anything aside from the Fiverr Club, but that just comes monthly and my card just gets charged and I don't even think about it. Yeah, that's it. I am just surviving this heat as best I can. Looking forward to the middle of September when hopefully it will cool down. I hope you all stay safe and careful with the current pandemic and then the potential of monkeypox. So yes, I hope you stay safe and cool, and I will talk to you next week. Bye.